A full-blown revolt against ultra-woke L.A. District Attorney George Gascon. An astounding 98% of Los Angeles prosecutors support a recall against their hyper-progressive boss, and perhaps for good reason. Gascon scrambling to save face after giving a light sentence, a very light sentence, to a child molester caught on tape celebrating the DA's policies that spared her years behind bars despite attacking a 10-year-old girl.
Don't worry about it. It's a strike, but they're going to plead. I'm going to plead out to it. I'm going to plead guilty. They're going to stick me on probation, and it's going to be dropped. It's going to be done. I won't have to register. I won't have to nothing.
For an offender, you don't have to register?
I won't have to do none of that.
So what are they going to do to you then?
Nothing.
Gascon claims he did not know about these tapes before sentencing the child molester, who now identifies, as you may have figured out, as a woman. But the prosecutor on the case, Shay Sana, who handled it, says Gascon and his inner circle all knew about the shocking jailhouse audio.
I received an email saying that management wanted the tapes. They heard I had the tapes because I sent them to everybody involved in the Tubbs case, the Department of Probation, Department of Mental Health, everybody that needed to know what was on the tapes. I sent them a link.
Let me, rather than focus on the DA, I want to focus on the perp here. Yeah. Hannah Tubbs, who was James Tubbs at the time this was committed. He didn't identify as a woman until he was facing, he thought a life sentence, but a long time in jail. I wonder if the way some claim transsexuals are gaming sports, if now they're going to game the criminal justice system, some tiny fraction of them. But I think that this is a real possibility that we should have our eyes open to. The fact that James Tubbs, facing long time, becomes Hannah Tubbs, gets the sympathy of the trans aspect. At the same time, he said at the time, he told his father, I was young and I was hungry for some meat before going after the child.
That could have worked with Gascon. I don't know. Someone's going to have to ask him that. Guy's a sicko, and everybody should have known about these tapes. They did know, and the only reason that he reversed this whole deal is because Fox was going to break it. Right. So the guy is a total media front runner. And here's what happened. So remember the home invasion of the Motown co-founder where the wife was shot dead? That and I believe she was Brentwood High School, but then UCLA or USC girl who was stabbed to death by the homeless perp with like a slew of felony convictions. Those two things have galvanized not just right-wing donors, but now left-wing donors in that whole area, and they're coming out of the woodwork to recall this sucker. You now have George Clooney's producer. You have Hillary Clinton's bundler. You have Biden's pick for the ambassador to Norway. And Ron Burkle, Bill Clinton's friend. You have Sugar Ray Leonard, Rosanna Arquette. They want to recall this guy. So now this is not even about politics. These are about people that live in this area, can't handle this guy anymore, and they want him done. And I think this really signals that he's toast.
And yet, Katie, when the recall election had its first rush, it only got 40% of the votes it needed.
Yeah. This is a good lesson in politics being local. A couple years ago, a very radical portion of the left decided that they wanted to get a bunch of DAs backed by George Soros into places like LA, New York, San Francisco, and they did it with tons of money and under the radar because a lot of people weren't paying attention to these elections. Now, with body bags stacked up and people getting killed, people are starting to pay attention, and they're trying to recall them to get these guys out because they weren't necessarily a representation of what people thought when they were getting someone progressive about criminal justice. But overall, the philosophy has been proven that this leftist ideology, academic philosophy about criminal justice reform is crashing right into reality of what criminals actually do to people when they are allowed to just get out of jail and shoot people in their homes without any consequences, identify however you want so that you can get out of being on the sex offender list. That's this kind of philosophy that's been implemented with real-world consequences for people who have been killed and whose lives have been changed forever.
And yet, Dana, we have the highest population in jails of any nation in the world. We can't arrest our way out of it. What Gascon was trying to do is...
We can arrest criminals and deal with it. And the thing is about the internal revolt. So Bill Malugin, our reporter in L.A., he finds out that these tapes exist. He calls and they say, oh, let us check into that. And that's when all of a sudden they started to say, oh, they started backpedaling. Gascon has no friends anymore. I don't think he's going to have a single defender. He should resign tomorrow. And because the other thing is that the gentleman you saw, Shea Sana, who had the case, he got reassigned after he brought the tapes to everyone's attention. So that's the kind of retaliation the prosecutor has provided to somebody who was working hard to try to do the right thing. And that's why you said 98% of the prosecutors that work for him do not have trust in him. He's toast. He should go tomorrow.
Are we going back to 1994, Pete?
Already there. 98%. Vladimir Putin couldn't even get that vote if he wanted. I mean, you're right. He's done.
Yeah.
I don't see how he finds his way through this. We were already there. We're already there here in New York City. We're moving back in that direction. The police are completely demoralized. They arrest people who are back. No one understood the power of lawyers understood. Regular people never understood the power of a district attorney.
Right.
That 90% of cases are pleaded out. And who that district attorney is means those people either get stiff sentences and actual jail time, or they're let out time after time after time. And Jess, you laid out that list of celebrities, and I know you know this, they deserve no credit. I mean, this is all not in my backyard stuff. If it was on the other side of the coast, they'd be putting out videos about criminal justice reform. It just happens to be in their neighborhood. So will they learn the lessons? Probably not. But when it hits them at the ballot box, maybe they'll think otherwise.
Are we going to do this story today about Trump's prosecutors not resigning?
I think it happened
Manhattan
late, so we
DA?
didn't have it in this particular show, but it will be on. It has been on the air so far.
Two Manhattan assistant district attorneys resigned over the progress of the Trump investigation, effectively dropping that investigation, which was a BS investigation from the get-go. But you'll hear more about it. Don't take my word for it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.